From the Cactus, KCTS, I'm Jamison Greenwood with Greenwood and Company. Well, happy Pi Day, everybody. I hope everybody's been having a really good weekend. 3.14 or 3-14, of course, is Pi Day. To start off, I can say some more of that than pi, 3.1415925935, but we won't trouble you with that. Most people, you guys didn't come here for a math lesson. You came here for humor and poetry. Now, very rarely does Pi Day fall on a Saturday like it does this year, but I remember once when I was in 4th grade when it fell on Saturday, and we decided we were going to go get pie, but this particular Pi Day would also be a test of the patience of Theo, Taylor, and myself. I'm not sure if 4th grade mathematics curriculum has become more or less advanced over the years since I finished school, but when I was in Mrs. Hick's 4th grade class, one of the concepts introduced was geometry of a circle. One Wednesday, she described the 3 different aspects of measuring circles: diameter, the distance from one end of a circle to the other; radius, distance from the middle of the circle out to the edge; and utilizing these to calculate the circumference, or the length of one rotation around the circle. The 4th grade math textbook had a particular method they wanted you to use for calculation, but Mrs. Hicks, who recognized how poorly written it was, took some creative liberties with teaching the lesson. So to calculate the circumference, Mrs. Hicks explained, the book wants you to use 2 pi r, or 2 times pi times the radius. But I think that's stupid and confusing, so I would prefer you calculate it as 2r pi. Theo raised his hand. Yes, Theo. Is this a fruit pie? Mrs. Hicks giggled. Not exactly, Theo. Anyone know what pi is? Taylor raised her hand. 3.1415925936. All right, Taylor, yes, we know pi doesn't end, but to make it easier, we'll just use 3.14. How can a number have no end? I asked. Well, Jimmy, replied Mrs. Hicks, that's a great question. But you know, there are professors at universities who sit together in classrooms and they talk for hours about that kind of stuff. Clearly, Mrs. Hicks was trying to inspire open-mindedness and wonder to help us grow and hide the fact she had no freaking idea how to answer such a question. But the thought of discussing numbers for hours with a bunch of old guys in wire-rimmed glasses and tweed sport coats with elbow patches didn't seem like much fun to me. We then split into groups so Mrs. Hicks could have us practice various problems involving circles and pi. Theo and I worked through several problems with Taylor, more gifted in math than either of us, helping to compensate for our confusion and lack of interest. After a few problems, I noticed something while copying the homework assignment into my student calendar. 3:14 is Saturday. 3.14 or 3-14. It's Pi Day! Exclaimed Theo. We should get pie together, Taylor said. Well, Saturdays are when we normally visit Grammy Benson. Wait! Grammy wants to go to Marie Callender's this weekend, and Marie Callender's has all sorts of pies. I'll go there and try a chocolate cream pie, said Theo. We'll have to check with Mr. and Mrs. Greenwood and our own parents, though, Taylor said. That shouldn't be a problem. Right, Jimmy? Theo asked. I didn't think my parents or Grammy would have a problem with this, but Taylor brought up a good point. There's no guarantee, I said, but we'll check. I don't think Grammy would mind. As it turned out, Grammy, the Pattons, and the Driscolls were all fine with us gathering for Pi Day on Saturday, March 14th. So Theo, Taylor, and I gathered at my house, then the 6 of us got into my mother's Mercury Grand Marquis. Once we drove over to Grammy's house in Sun City West, we realized that 7 people wouldn't fit in the 6-seater Grand Marquis, so we split between Mom, Dad, and Macie in the Grand Marquis, while Theo, Taylor, and I rode with Grammy in her Chrysler New Yorker. Marie Callender's was like a Coco's, Perkins, or a Village Inn, but designed with a sense of Victorian grandeur that's rarely seen in chain restaurants today. The outside looked like a mud and brick country cottage you might find in the English Dales, with orange stucco and sage-green Tudor-style struts, along with a wood-shake roof and an assortment of scattered chimneys for both indoor fireplaces and an outdoor fireplace on the patio. Inside the large sage-green door was a grand foyer with yellow ochre walls and oak provincial wainscoting, a bronze chandelier with frosted glass shades on the ceiling, and hexagon-shaped saltillo floor tiles, but none of those details compared to the fluorescent-lit cabinet beyond the menu stand, housing a delicious assortment of expert-decorated dessert pies. To the right of the entrance door was the main set of 3 dining rooms and the salad bar, while to the left was the bar area and the patio beyond it. But just outside the bar area was a claw machine, and on top of the pile of plushies trapped within, Macie saw her favorite character. "SpongeBob," she pointed. "I want the SpongeBob." I wanted to be a good brother, so I went to get some coinage out of my pocket of my fleece jacket and was about to put it into the machine when Grammy called to us that our table was ready. Maybe she'll just forget about it, I thought. I certainly hoped that she might forget about it because I was old enough to know after hearing from Mom and Dad their comments on the SpongeBob episode about the skill crane that they're basically a scam, and I was hesitant to actually give it a try, but before I can tell you what the actual course of events was with that SpongeBob and whether or not Macie got it, we have to take a short break, but once we return, we'll get to have some pie, and we'll figure out what happened with the SpongeBob. You're listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. Hello, I'm Jamison Greenwood. If you enjoy Greenwood and Company, be sure to follow and share wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more Greenwood and Company right after this. You already love Dentifrica toothpaste, but if blasting your teeth with caustic chemicals just doesn't feel like enough, now there's Dentifrica mouthwash. Just like our toothpaste, it freshens your breath and gradually dissolves your gums, but unlike our toothpaste, it's multi-purpose. Available in 4 different flavors, original, cool mint, orange, and cinnamon, it gives you a blast of cool freshness before that night on the town, and if you're having friends over to party all night and forgot to buy tequila or bourbon, no problem. You can easily mix Dentifrica mouthwash with fruit juice or gin, and your guests will never know the difference. So if you want fresh breath and or cheap cocktails, choose Dentifrica mouthwash, the strongest mouthwash around. Available in plastic bottles for the bathroom or glass bottles for the kitchen. For sale at Giggett supermarkets and other subpar retailers. Dentifrica mouthwash is not approved by the American Dental Association and is known to cause tattoo-related tetanus in Tennessee. Dentifrica mouthwash has not been successfully used as a defense against drunk driving charges, although we're still trying. Dentifrica toothpaste will not pay legal fees incurred for charges of drunk driving or disturbing the peace with loud drinking parties. And welcome back. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on the Cactus, KCTS. Now, before the break, we were talking about that Macie, my sister, was interested in a SpongeBob in the claw machine, and I was worried that we were going to have to take the chances with those machines, which, as most of you know, are often rigged. So, once we got together with the rest of our family and our friends, the server took us into a dining room flanked by polished brass faux gas chandeliers, floral print wallpaper with blue and white stripes, and a burgundy carpet. The only indications we were not in the Victorian era were the 20s-aged granola kid in a booth on the other side who wore a Subaru t-shirt, cargo shorts, and flip-flops, and the plastic Rolodex-style pie menu in the middle of the table, which Taylor began to thumb through. "Is this the one you want, Theo?" asked Taylor. She showed a chocolate-brown pie with plenty of whipped cream. "The French silk?" "Yeah," Theo said. "That's the one." Taylor wondered what she should get. "Cherry or apple?" Grammy, who overheard us, had a tip. "Do the apple, Taylor. In my experience, their cherry's a bit tart." "I'm having the coconut cream," I proclaimed. "Macie, do you want pie after we eat our dinner?" "Just ice cream," Macie said. I was satisfied as she went back to her crayons on the kids' menu that she had given up on the SpongeBob and the claw machine. Soon after, a red-haired male server took our drink orders and brought a tray of Diet Coke for Mom, iced tea for Dad, coffee with cream for Grammy, and root beers for us kids. He then took our food orders and brought Grammy and Dad plates to use at the salad bar. While they rose from the table to collect their rabbit food, Macie turned to me. Can we go to the claw machine and try to get that SpongeBob while we're waiting for our food? I got my hopes up too soon and turned to my friends. Guys, Macie wants to see if we can get the SpongeBob from that skill crane. Do you want to come along? Sure, said Theo. We can help if you have trouble, Taylor said, though I could tell from Taylor's expression that she knew what I knew and Macie was too young to comprehend. Claw machines are a scam. We walked back to the lobby where the skill crane was, and Macie pointed to the CD-sized SpongeBob amongst a pile of favorite characters from Disney, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and various animes and Warner Brothers cartoons. I retrieved a quarter from my jacket pocket and slid it into the slot. I have to be the crane, Macie said, remembering the advice that SpongeBob gave Squidward in the skill crane episode. My sister moved the joystick in various directions until she was sure she was over the SpongeBob, then pressed the button to pick him up. The claw retracted its 3 mandibles, or prongs, not really sure what you call those, then lowered it toward the plush facsimile of the world's favorite sea sponge. The mandibles snapped shut, but not until the claw rose enough that it would not be able to grasp Mr. Squarepants, then swung over to deliver a prize of nothing more than oxygen and an accumulation of dust in the waiting chute. 2 additional tries on Macie's part were complete failures. Can you try it, Jimmy? Macie asked. At first glance it seemed she was giving up on the claw machine, but with the gleam in her eyes, there was no question she wanted me to try for it. I tried once but was unsuccessful, had only 1 quarter left, and though I considered taking a second stab, I decided I would ask one of my friends. My hope was that Taylor would want to do it, and not Theo, as her analytical nature made her more likely to come up with a good strategy to outsmart the claw, but Theo volunteered first. But what if Taylor wants to? Said Macie. I can get it when Theo's done, said Taylor. But, Taylor, I only have 1 quarter left. My 2 best friends checked their pockets but found them empty, save a small engineer's pencil for Taylor and a pitch pipe for Theo, which his father, our church organist and choir director, had given him for his birthday. We should probably ask your mom and dad for some more coins, Taylor said. We went back to the table, where the server had already brought us our dinner, and once we'd eaten our burgers, chicken fingers, and mini pepperoni pizzas, I brought up our lack of funds to Mom and Dad. I could see Dad reaching into the pocket of his dockers to get himself some change, but Mom snapped her hand against his. Are you sure you guys want to be spending that kind of money? My mother asked. Oh, Grammy said, I've got plenty of quarters. She dug through her 1960s patent leather purse to retrieve her wallet and snapped open the coin pouch on the back of it. Grammy, my mother said, you know those machines are designed to... Yes, Helen, my grandmother said. That's exactly why I'm giving them so many. My parents were surprised that Grammy would be willing to delineate so much of her money, but she always had plenty of change on file, mainly because she had no cell phone, so she needed the change for payphones, which were still ubiquitous at the time of which I speak. Theo and I each tried 3 times to win the SpongeBob, but were unsuccessful, at which point we gave our remaining quarters to Taylor, figuring they would be better spent by someone such as her. Taylor's first 3 tries were punishing failures, like they were for the rest of us, but with each one, she seemed to get closer to mastering various steps toward outsmarting the claw machine. The timing of when to move the claw, the exact moment to push the button, the proper position of the claw to maximize the chance it would obtain the desired animal. I think I've solved it, Taylor exclaimed as she inserted her 4th coin. Theo was getting tired of this whole escapade, but wasn't tired enough to step away from the crane and eat his French silk pie. I'm pressing the button, Taylor said. We watched in awe, impressed at how snugly the open claws embraced the SpongeBob Macie coveted. The claw rose slightly, which usually happened before it snapped shut, to minimize the chances it could be held accountable for taking hard-earned cash. But in a cruel twist for the machine, it did not rise far enough that it missed the SpongeBob. The claw rose with that lovable sea sponge unable to struggle out of its grasp, until it moved to the top of the chute, unsnapped, and dropped it toward the door. Macie opened the chute and hugged her new stuffed companion. Good job, Taylor, exclaimed Theo. What do you say to Taylor, Macie? I asked, wanting to be a good brother. Thank you, I replied in kind. The rest of us were content to go back to the table, where our pies were likely waiting, but with 2 quarters left, Taylor decided to take another gander, winning both a Pikachu and a Kirby from the skill crane for herself. When we got back to the dining room, Mom, Dad, and Grammy had already finished their pies, and Grammy was stirring cream into what was probably her 4th or 5th cup of coffee. The pies for us kids, as well as the bowl of ice cream for Macie, were waiting on the table, and we began to consume our celebratory desserts in observance of Taylor's victory over the claw machine. Taylor found the apple pie sweet and not tart, as Grammy had suggested, and I enjoyed the light vanilla flavoring of the coconut cream, nice contrast to the flaky crust, but Theo's face shriveled upon tasting the French silk pie. "You okay, Theo?" Taylor asked. Theo shook his head. "This tastes like chocolate soap," likely referring to the alcohol, "and the whipped cream's way too stiff." So Theo's dreams of chocolate pie might have been dashed, although like other gross things such as coffee and cheesecake, he would come to love it as an adult. But with that, our Pie Day excursion reached its end, and it was necessary to go back to Grammy's. But as we continued toward the lobby so Mom and Dad could pay, we noticed a number of folks gathered around the claw machine. Although we couldn't tell how many there were, it appeared they all got a piece of the claw machine's pie, but once Grammy paid the bill for us and we proceeded out the door, we saw a server shoo them all away and put an out-of-order sign on the claw machine. Apparently it's only functional if it fails to retrieve its precious cargo and swindles unsuspecting youth out of their parents' coinage. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. The morning. A time to watch the sunrise, enjoy your morning tea, and beat yourself to death as you work to conquer the day. The world would rather you miss your breakfast, but instead of waking before sunrise to make time for the tedium of bacon and eggs, why not fast forward your breakfast with Sunrise Jiggle Gelatin Breakfasts? Our aspic cups come packed with an assortment of eggs, fruit, and cereal to ensure you're getting all the major food groups. Try bacon strawberry with bran flakes, raisin sausage, and if burning your mouth with coffee isn't enough, try our orange Tabasco with andouille and Fruit Loops for that classic New Orleans taste. Sunrise Jiggle Gelatin Breakfasts, a quick and easy path to nutritious breakfasts or making it easier to quit breakfast. Available at Gigit supermarkets and other subpar retailers. Support for Greenwood and Company and the Cactus KCTS comes from the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety, the Shag Carpet Preservation Fund, and DecorRejects.com, offering exclusive online deals on broken vases, beat-up furniture, and poorly exposed photographs, all at prices to meet your budget. DecorRejects.com, because trash deserves to sell too. Well, no episode about Pie Day would be complete without a poem related to pie. So here is a fruit pie sonnet. Fluffy crust encasing luscious filling, sugared fruit with juices thick and sweet. Anticipation for this meal is thrilling, for fruit and bread combined cannot be beat. The best home cooks throughout the generations would knead the dough, then fill it with its fruit. Cuisine that seems to name the U.S. nation. American, these treats are absolute. For Sunday dinners, socials, or in diners, it's always there to end a perfect meal, when at the table or in our recliners, this simple dish both young and old hearts steals. American is apple, peach, or cherry, such pies are just the way to keep us merry. That brings an end to this week's Greenwood and Company. Our show was created and hosted by yours truly and was written by him along with James Salison and Minnesota Martinez. The engineer is Ivan Crosby. Jonas Andrews answers the phones even though we don't take calls on this program. The theme was composed by Martin Landstrom, and our costumes are provided by Grandma's Garage Thrift Shop. All the characters, settings, and situations depicted in this program, along with all advertised products, are entirely fictional, and any similarities to products, events, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Also, KCTS is not an actual radio station. Be sure to visit our website at JamisonGreenwoodPodcast.com to learn more about Greenwood and Company, and make sure to follow us on the podcast platform of your choice and share with your friends on social media. Just a reminder to please be careful if you are going out on the 101, the 17, or Route 66 tonight. I'm Jamison Greenwood, and until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Good night. This is KCTS FM Phoenix. Stay tuned for Lacking in Substance.